Hello and welcome to this very special GSMA digital event where today we're joined by Microsoft to learn more about how 5G and multi-access edge compute are combining to unlock new opportunities for operators and their customers, and to hear some important updates from the Microsoft team on its Azure for Operators strategy and new offerings. In just a moment, we'll hear from Head of GSMA Intelligence, Peter Jarek, as he level sets on 5G and the edge opportunity. Microsoft's CVP for Azure for Operators, Youssef Khalidi, will be here to give us an update on Microsoft's Azure for Operators. Tad Brockway, Microsoft's CVP for Azure for Operators, will articulate the value of edge computing. And Sriraj Gaglani, General Manager Azure for Operators, will be here to share news of a new Azure solution that adds value to Microsoft's Azure for Operators initiative. And then it's time for a conversation with our panel where Peter and Sriraj will rejoin us, along with Sean Hackle, Microsoft VP for 5G Strategy, and Ashwin Moranganti, General Manager, Azure for Operators. We welcome your questions for our experts today, so please do submit them in the comments box on the screen, and I'll put as many of them as I can to our guests later on in the show. We've a lot to look forward to during the next hour or so let's begin by welcoming our first guest today. Here to set the scene on 5G and mobile edge is Head of GSMA Intelligence, Peter Jarek.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Super excited to be here. This is an important topic to us at GSMA Intelligence, something we've been looking at a lot, and very excited to be supporting this. So I want to start with just a bit of a level set. Right, and start with the idea that where are we in 2021? We are now fully in the 5G era. So you see on the screen some data from our recent survey, our recent research around the state of 5G around the world. And what do you see? You see that it's been launched by more than 150 operators. To the end of the year, we expect about 550 million connections, going up to 2 billion by the end of 2025. Now, for a lot of us, this is pretty clear. Right? We understand that 5G has arrived, but it's important to talk about because for many years, a lot of us have lived through the expectation of what will happen when we get to 5G. What is it going to be like? What will operators do when we finally get to the 5G era? So it's important to start with this idea that, well, we're now here. And that really brings up the question of, okay, what are we doing now? And that leads me to the next data point that I have, which is 83%. So the GSMA a while ago went out to operator CEOs and asked, where do you see the biggest opportunity from a revenue perspective around 5G? And the answer, 83%, said they're looking to the enterprise and government sectors. They're looking to enterprise and government applications to really drive new 5G revenue opportunities. Now, why is that important? Well, one, it's important because it shows where they're going to be putting the focus, where they think 5G, this new technology that we've been waiting for, where it can deliver value. But it's also important because it fits into this context of where operator revenues sit today. So it's not too surprising to see that 83% when you realize that operator revenues are dominated by the consumer market right now. This is some research that we took looking at operator revenues, looking at how they report their revenues between the enterprise and consumer markets. And what do you see? You see that at best, some operators are looking at around the 40% range for enterprise. For most, it's a lot less. Now, that's important because that shows there's a huge upside there. It's not just that they're hoping 5G is this great opportunity because, well, they're hoping, but because they recognize there's untapped potential there. Potential markets that they just haven't reached out to yet that they hope 5G can really help them execute on. Now, of course, you can't just hope. Right? You've got to go out there and look and say, okay, well, what do you need to do to actually execute on that opportunity? So when you go out and you talk to operators, like we do on a regular basis, well, what do you find? You find that as the operators look to understand, well, what technologies do they need? Right? What are the technologies beyond 5G that in addition to 5G will help them execute on the enterprise opportunity, particularly around IoT, connecting things, digital transformation in enterprise? What do you see? Well, you see that edge. Edge is particularly important from the operator perspective. You see some data that we have here asking about edge in particular verticals. And what you see is that depending upon the vertical, the numbers differ. But across the board, there is a great agreement that edge is going to be important for helping operators execute on really taking that 5G opportunity, building that into enterprise success. But then I want to do one last reality check before I hand over and I hand back to David. And so if we recognize that edge is important, how do we want to think about edge? And I want to provide some a data point here going back to some research that we did and what the market was looking at, let's say, several years ago in 2018. When we looked back at the market in 2018 and edge was coming around, the big focus at that point was this trajectory of where were wireless carriers going with their edge deployments versus cloud players. And the market was really talking about how do those intersect and what are we going to do and who's going to win. And I think it's important to start there because it really provides us background for 3 years later, the story is very different. We have moved past that completely. The story of 2018, very different from the story of 2021, where we now recognize this wireless carriers versus cloud players dichotomy, not really a thing, right? But the things that we need to be looking at, that telcos are looking at, is really how do they and public cloud players fit together? These are the issues that we hear from operators, right? Issues around how do they work around multi-cloud orchestration? How do they pull this into private wireless, right? Pulling edge into a private wireless story. Does private wireless pull edge? Does edge create a private wireless opportunity? Is it push or pull, and how do we make that work? What are the use cases from a consumer and an enterprise perspective? And how do we actually show that those are real and not just speculative? Last, I think the real thing that we have really seen is this idea that is web scale plus telco and not sort of this versus. And that's the biggest story change that we've seen over the last 3 years and why I'm excited to see what we're going to hear next from the Microsoft folks. So, David, back to you.
Thank you very much, Peter. Next up, here to update us on Microsoft's Azure for Operators initiative, please welcome CVP for Azure for Operators, Yusuf Khalidi.
Thank you, David, and thank you, everybody, for attending this event. I'm excited to be here to tell you more about our strategy and updates to our strategy as well. But let me start by first telling you about how we think of 5G. You know a lot about 5G. I will not bore you with the details and why it's great and fancy and so forth, but for us, it's really about enabling a new set of scenarios by enabling networking to now become real-time, if you will. It's about the intersection of the physical world now and the virtual world. Before 5G and before edge computing, you could send data all over the place. Your phone, my phone works, and everything is fine. But everything was sort of like after the fact. You read something that was published a while back. The machine may be talking to somebody, but the data is being used more as a machine learning AI after the fact. With 5G and with edge computing, you can now close the loop between the physical world, the actual devices, the actual people, what they're seeing, and so forth, all the way back to the network, to computation, to edge-based computation, all the way to the public cloud and back, and change the physical world, if you will. You'll hear more about this, but it's really about pushing computation along a complete spectrum from very, very close to the device, to the user, to the cloud. It's about real-time analysis of the results of the data and acting upon it. And then it's also about creating new experiences out of all that. And now we are bullish about this because, frankly, we're in the business of connecting a lot of devices today. We are in the business of doing a lot of AI inferences today. And what we're doing with our 5G strategy is, if you will, connecting everything together. So I want to tell you our basic principles, how we're approaching this strategy. And this is very important to us. I mean, it's a simple list, but I really want you to internalize what we're doing here. We are basically bringing the power of the cloud to future-proof all networking out there. We want to drive costs down and open up new opportunities for the operators and for consumers. Our approach is very much partner-centric. We are very clear. The operator owns the customer, owns the brand, owns the ideas, owns the experience. We are basically the platform in the platform business. We are very good plumbers, by the way. We have amazing infrastructure. And we want to enable, if you will, our partners, our operators, our customers to use that infrastructure. We also know it's going to be a journey. We will meet you where you are, either on premises, somewhere on the edge, and back in the public cloud. And the workloads will move between these places. And I'll show you more about this in a second. And it's all about supporting the ecosystem. It takes a lot of players to put these solutions together, from the RAN to the core to very CNFs and OSS and BSS and so forth. So we have the usual playbook of being very partner-friendly, partner-centric almost. And as such, all the ecosystem will be brought together for this journey. And as I said, it's really, it has to be a journey. These things don't change overnight. So let me show you, though, some of the steps we think will happen in this journey. Basically, it's a very simple story here, moving from software-enabled functions to cloud-based functions to cloud-enabled services that can span a big spectrum here. So the first step is going to be very much about moving certain functions to software. This is happening, has been happening for a number of years. So you have virtualized packet cores, you have virtualized voice, IMS, SVC already today being virtualized, moving from proprietary hardware to general purpose hardware, and more things moving to the edge. And you see more from this event, what we're doing there as well. So this is about shifting from closed proprietary hardware to software that can be run in different places. Beyond that, we're going to be seeing more of these functions become cloud-based, which means they are not necessarily tied to a certain piece of hardware or a location, but instead start to be managed and used more in the cloud and from the cloud. And again, it's going to be a gradual set of steps. And lastly, the same kind of functions will now become services. And for those of you who may have been watching the cloud journey of us and other cloud providers, you see this transition between virtual machines, simple standalone functions to highly scalable cloud systems. And the same trend we believe will happen here. And frankly, we're accelerating it to happen like this as well. Okay. So just to tell you more about our hybrid approach, and then my colleagues will tell you a lot more about what we're announcing today. It's very much a hybrid approach in that if you look at the principles I mentioned a few slides ago, you'll see that it's going to be a journey, and then we have to meet the customers where they are today. So from bottom up, we're going to support existing NFVIs, existing infrastructure such as OpenStack, various Kubernetes incarnations, and so forth. So we need to be able to run existing functions in the different container mechanisms, if you will, from VMs to containers at the very lowest bottom. We will also support enterprises on-premises, on the edge, regardless what the location might be. The key, by the way, is to manage it from the cloud. So make it very easy to orchestrate and manage everything together. So simplified management is really the key here, guys. Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of technology needed for the actual NFVs and NFVIs and the actual orchestration among them and so forth. But ultimately, simplifying the management to make it easier to run these systems, to make them more reliable and more agile is really key here. And ultimately, you end up with end-to-end visibility and control over the whole spectrum, if you will. This slide is very much an infrastructure slide. What we will see next is more use cases and how we're going to be applying some of these principles to the whole area of edge compute. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. And please stay tuned for my colleagues. They'll tell you a lot more about this vision and how we're delivering to market. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yusuf. It's now time to edge a little closer to the edge. Here to articulate the value of edge computing is CVP for Azure for Operators at Microsoft, Tad Brockway. Tad.
Thank you all so much. These four important tech trends are all coming together right now, and 5G is the spark that's firing up what's being referred to as our fourth industrial revolution. All of this is being called Industry 4.0. As Yusuf covered, hybrid is a major trend here. All the action in terms of innovation is happening at the enterprise edge. In fact, the enterprise edge is going to be a factor in IT for many decades to come. Initially, greenfield use cases are in focus, and they're going to be most common. Governments, operators, and enterprise customers, they're all innovating at the enterprise edge. As they do so, what they're telling us is they want connectivity that's reliable, secure, and high performance. This means enterprise private networks. Customers are also telling us that they're tired of the complexity of traditional IT networking. At Microsoft, we're developing solutions with all of these requirements in mind. Let's dig into a few verticals to see what's going on. Retailers want deep insights into how their customers are experiencing their stores and products. In manufacturing, employee safety is a major priority. In fact, safety is on everyone's mind, and all of us want safety and security, but we also want flexibility and efficiency. 5G combined with intelligent video processing, this combination of technologies are important for all of these scenarios. And the enterprise edge is where it all comes together. Our customers are telling us that they're already deploying solutions in these segments for scenarios like manufacturing, smart spaces, and energy. Our customers want insights in real time based on live data at the enterprise edge. Our partners are deploying 5G networks in a wide variety of environments to meet these needs. And everyone involved wants to develop modern apps that improve the experiences of their end users. Of course, operators are bringing this all together by integrating private networks with carrier services, and all of this together enables mission-critical scenarios and mobility. Again, all of this must be secure, simple, and easy to manage. At Microsoft, we're learning from the experiences of our customers and partners. We're hearing that they're frustrated, as we talked about, with the complexity of existing private wireless networking technologies. Our customers and partners, they want a lightweight and straightforward platform to modernize their connectivity and to enable these greenfield use cases that we talked about at the enterprise edge. Developers are key here, of course. There's a vast diversity of IoT devices and applications that need to be developed. And devs, they want the agility and the power of low-code, no-code tools and platforms. Today, we are announcing a new solution called Azure Private MEC. And we can't do any of this without our partners. We need our operator partners, ISVs, SIs, and many others to pull it all together. Now let's hear from Sriraj, who is the head of product for Azure Private MEC. Sriraj is going to tell you all about this exciting solution.
Thank you very much, Tad. So with the scene set around 5G, edge compute and Azure for operators, it's time now to find out more about Azure Private MEC. And first of all, I'd like to hand over to General Manager, Azure for Operators, Sriraj Gaglani.
As our previous speakers have already discussed, the 5G-enabled enterprise edge is of high interest to operators, enterprises, and governments. We have seen accelerating interest from customers that are exploring a wide range of use cases that private networks on enterprise edges can deliver on. And as Tad mentioned, we have started collecting some foundational learnings that are shaping our strategy and our roadmap. Key learning that we have is that for us to move the market from early adoption to mass market, we must simplify how these solutions are procured, deployed, and managed. Networking has always been a very complex challenge for enterprises, and building mission-critical networks like 5G simply exacerbate the problem. Another key learning is that network-aware application services are what drive business value for these new private networks. And the skills required today, spanning from artificial intelligence and machine learning to video and real-time applications, networking, as well as great software development, are skills that are hard to find. The mission for Azure Private MEC solution then is to massively simplify 5G networking to make it as easy as Wi-Fi, as well as to simplify the application development required to bring business value to these networks. So what is Private MEC? It's a bundle of edge compute, multi-access network stacks, and application services that run together on the connected edge. Given our mission of simplification, it was really important for us to bring all these different domains together so that they could be procured, deployed, and managed in a consistent way. And that's what the cloud management technology that we've developed allows us to do. Previously, all these different domains were procured, managed, integrated as different silos, which drove up the cost of bringing these solutions together. These solutions take a long time to pull together, and they tend to be not very flexible because they tend to be purpose-built because of the high complexity of bringing them together. Edge services and applications are the key business driver for Private MEC. and bringing together the tools, platforms, and developer ecosystem for the wide range of business cases will be very important in the evolution of this market from early adoption to mass market. There is a wide sprawling network estate at the edge, from the mobile network to WAN and security. And these are especially challenging to bring together, configure, and manage. By working with partners as well as internal technology, we're now able to easily procure, deploy, and manage your range of network functions at the enterprise edge. We've also been listening very closely to our early adopter customers who have a very wide range of use cases that they want to deploy, as well as environments they need to deploy this in. And to solve for this, we made sure that we are able to start you off on this journey of building private networks with very small form factor infrastructure that can then scale to your needs. Let's take a deeper look at the solution. We talked about how it was important to bring these multiple domains together to solve for the simplification problem. But now let's take a look at what we're doing within each layer to bring simplification at that layer. Starting with cloud management, we now have Azure Network Function Manager, which is in public preview, that makes it very easy to deploy very complex network functions and services at the enterprise edge from the cloud. We use Azure Arc to deploy edge infrastructure and application services in a consistent manner from the cloud. At the next layer, Azure provides a range of IoT edge services, including edge and video AI capabilities to simplify real-time application development for various IoT scenarios. One such service that Tad talked about is the Azure Video Analytics service, which serves a wide range of verticals and requires the reliability and performance of a 4G or 5G cellular network. We have seen that all the early adopters are building custom applications requiring expertise in software, AI and ML, networking, and video. Our goal is to simplify the development of these applications by building out a portfolio of edge AI services and recruiting a community of developers and ISVs to build apps for the Industry 4.0 edge. A complete set of curated network functions are now available for deployment today from the Azure Marketplace from multiple partners, spanning 4G, 5G networks to SD-WAN, firewalls, and VPN gateways. We will partner with various RAN vendors as well to offer choices to our partners. Today, you will see in our demo how ASOCs onboarded their very innovative solution onto the Azure Stack Edge. By simplifying the ability to choose from a growing range of network options, as well as procuring, deploying, and managing them in a consistent way, we are taking a big step towards simplification, making it easier to adapt these capabilities and to evolve them with changing business needs over time. Finally, we have a variety of edge computing options, starting with the Azure Stack Edge. It's a small form factor device for space and power constrained scenarios. With Azure Stack HCI coming soon, that is available as a scalable solution that can go up to 16 compute nodes. Azure also offers very compelling edge devices and end-to-end video AI platforms, such as Azure Percept, which simplifies AI consumption and app development using low-code and no-code development techniques. Let's explore this in more detail. We recognize that without network-aware applications, it's very hard to bring business value for these private networks. Our observations are that, number one, edge AI applications are driving the vast majority of use cases beyond simple connectivity. And number two, every application that is being developed in this new market is being developed from scratch in a bespoke manner. It's because you need expertise in multiple domains, including very complex domains like AI and machine learning. And we end up in a situation which is not very scalable. To address this, we are bringing the power of Azure application services and the developer ecosystem to the Private MEC solution. Azure Percept, for example, is a new Azure service. It's our end-to-end system for video capture and processing and AI, including validated hardware that speeds up the development and deployment of secure edge AI solutions. Video Analytics spatial analytics, and support for third-party AI models are all possible with Azure Percept and the Azure Stack Edge platform. You can now enable rapid proof of concepts against a range of different endpoints, including AI Vision Gateway and cameras, and use powerful tools like digital twins to leverage the planning and modeling of edge AI capabilities. One use case that our customers have articulated is using ultra-low latency with these 5G networks on-prem for worker safety. By using a closed-loop environment, you can now monitor where the worker is, how close they are to critical machinery, the ability to create alarms, or even shut down the machinery in a matter of milliseconds. By providing a low-code, no-code developer environment, sample applications, and the entire development kit using hardware, we are now very excited about how easy we are making it for our partners and our customers to get started on building these business-critical applications. The Azure Private MEC solution has benefits for enterprises, operators and system integrators, as well as our developer community. Enterprises now have a vastly increased ecosystem of developers building applications on a trusted platform that are going to bring value to the enterprise private networks. Operators and specialist system integrators can now bring solutions to market much faster for their enterprises through the simplification of the Azure Private MEC solution, while retaining the ability to build the custom capabilities that their customers care for. And finally, our software vendor partners now have a scalable distribution platform, as well as the ability to build applications using a consistent set of developer tools. We've been hard at work developing a fantastic ecosystem of partners to bring this entire solution and community together. We're especially proud of our system integrator and operator partnerships that we forged and enabled with the Private MEC solution. We're enabling these partners to make it easier to bring private networking and Industry 4.0 solutions to their enterprise customers using the full capability of Azure Private MEC. We've also both mutually benefited from learnings that we've been able to share from the early engagements we've been having in the market. In the application area, I'd like to point out a couple of ISVs that are building relevant applications for these markets. For example, Spyglass Vision Inspection by Mariner is enabling manufacturers to detect and address defects on the manufacturing line. Sight Machine is also working with manufacturers to address critical challenges in quality and productivity through real-time analytics. On the networking side, we're very pleased to be able to attract and work with a growing list of ecosystem partners to bring the private edge network together, ranging from RAN to Core and SD-WAN, all powered by the Azure Network Function Manager, which I'm thrilled to announce is now in public preview. Let's explore more about the Azure Network Function Manager that is powering the simplification of edge networking for private networks. We are very excited to be the first public cloud provider to provide a marketplace experience for 5G and other enterprise network functions available at the cloud-connected edge. The Network Function Manager provides a click and deploy experience for a growing range of network functions, including RAN, packet core, SD-WAN, VPN gateways, and firewalls. The Network Function Manager preview is currently available on the Azure Stack Edge device, which is an AI-enabled hardware as a service offering from Azure. The preview of Network Function Manager delivers a consistent Azure management experience for lifecycle management for all of these network functions. You can now automate a global deployment of a fleet of network functions on Azure Stack Edge devices in different on-prem locations. You can also apply a consistent governance, role-based access control, and policy management across this entire range of network functions. With the Network Function Manager service, it was super important for us to build a service that would provide customers their network function of choice delivered at the edge using a marketplace experience. In addition to Metaswitch and Affirm packet core network functions, which are now available in the marketplace, We're also working with a growing ecosystem of industry-leading partners. We have worked to onboard their pre-validated network functions to run on Azure Stack Edge. Customers can now get a consistent cloud-to-edge experience for building SD-WAN solutions or firewall solutions, in addition to a private network. Now I'd like to talk about our exciting marketplace offerings that we have. The Metaswitch Fusion Core is fully automated with Network Function Manager. You can now deploy this from the marketplace in a matter of minutes. We've done the engineering work to deliver high-performance packet core in the smallest footprint possible that enables you to run the entire 5G infrastructure, including the virtualized RAN, the Metaswitch Fusion Core, and the Azure Video Analytics application service in a very small form factor. In addition to the Metaswitch Fusion Core solution, we're also excited to announce the preview of a firmed private network service, which delivers a fully managed private LTE or 5G core that is available to deploy on your Azure Stack Edge device from the Azure Marketplace. The solution also provides the Affirm Service Manager deployed in Azure Public Cloud for service management and observability. Operators and managed service providers can now take advantage of this end-to-end cloud-native solution to simplify operations and scale the deployment across multiple enterprise edge locations. I'd like to show you a cool demo of how the Azure Private MEC solution enables SIs and operators to easily deploy and manage a complete 5G infrastructure, including the virtualized RAN, the packet core, and an ISV video analytics application, all running on a one-use server in a matter of minutes. Now let's switch to the demo video.
Combining powerful hardware options with select network functions to provide a fully managed applications delivery infrastructure that is both flexible and scalable, the Azure Private Multi-Access Edge Compute solution makes an ideal foundation for emerging enterprise network transformation initiatives. We're going to demonstrate how easily we can implement a complete private 5G network infrastructure from the Azure cloud onto a premises-based Azure Stack Edge platform. After providing provisioning parameters from a simple portal, we will see how the Azure Network Function Manager automates the distributed deployment of new radio access network functions and 5G core components. The Azure Stack Edge hardware is represented as an object in Azure, so we can check its operational status, active configuration, and perform maintenance tasks right from the standard portal. You can see here that we have created a Network Function Manager process and assigned it to the Azure Stack Edge device. We're now ready to support the deployment of network functions, starting with the RAN. The ASOC's Cyrus 2.0 is a fully decoupled O-RAN compliant solution. The physical radio units connect to virtualized, distributed, and centralized units, which are installed on the Azure Stack Edge platform using the Azure Network Function Manager resource. Now we can move on to the 5G core infrastructure. Delivering unmatched throughput on the smallest CPU footprint, Metaswitch Fusion Core is deployed just as easily. Once again, with a few simple configuration parameters from the Azure portal, the Azure Network Function Manager can complete the remote installation onto Azure Private MEC in a matter of minutes. If needed, we can use the VNF management portal to check everything is operational. Here, the Kubernetes dashboard provides a breakdown of each workload running in support of the installation. The incredibly lightweight design of Metaswitch network functions enable even the most processor-intensive applications to share a common 1U hardware platform. This enables Azure Private MEC to deliver on the promise of ultra-reliable, low-latency solutions in support of Industry 4.0. Spyglass visual inspection from Mariner employs deep machine learning algorithms that demand exactly that. It uses multiple cameras on a production line to capture detailed images of a component, which can then be interpreted by the Spyglass artificial intelligence engine to identify potential flaws in the manufacturing process. To learn more about how Azure Private MEC can help achieve your digital transformation goals, visit our website.
We are incredibly excited about Azure Private MEC and its role in Industry 4.0 transformation. We are committed to working with partners and the industry in accelerating and moving things from the early adopter to the mass market phase. As such, we are obsessed with simplifying the procurement, deployment, and management of latency-sensitive applications and the network estate at the enterprise edge. We're working very hard to ensure that you have an expanding set of edge compute platform choices, application services, and network services available to you over time. We'd like to invite you to come and build with us. We work very hard with our technology partners to build a full range of capabilities that can enable you to build next-generation enterprise solutions. Thanks for taking the time with us today. We look forward to hearing from you and continuing the discussion.
Thank you very much indeed, Sriraj. I'm delighted that Peter from GSMA Intelligence and Sriraj from Microsoft are still here, and we're also joined now by VP for Partner 5G Strategy at Microsoft, Sean Hackle, and General Manager Azure for Operators, Ashwin Moranganti. So we've covered a lot of ground over the last 45 minutes around 5G and Private MEC. What I'd like to do right now is to go back and pick up on some of the key points that we discussed in the presentations earlier on. So first of all, Sean, Peter, how about I steer my first question or my first talking point to you? Sean, why Edge? Why Private MEC? You know, Peter called out right at the beginning, you know, that operators see Edge as being key to their success in the enterprise. And then Tad, he noted how Enterprise Edge helps to support Industry 4.0. So I want to double down on what Edge actually delivers. What new capabilities, Sean, are not possible without it?
Yeah, and I think really where I'm going to answer that from, if you saw, Yusuf did an excellent job at the beginning of his presentation, sharing the data that we're working from, the actual customer data that we see across the various assets in our portfolio that lead us to the conclusion that there's a few key areas that you really see strong benefit with this. If you think about an EMBB service on 5G, really allows you to collect massive amounts of data, so you can basically get better fidelity video. But as you may know, there's 1,000-to-1 compression between sort of the raw data you collect at the edge and what you pass on to the inference engine. And so the combination of that high bandwidth transmission along with edge compute really lets you process much more effectively edge video-based services. You know, MMTC is going to allow you to connect tons and tons of sensor devices, but you've got to, you know, to a large extent, that's really geared around data that you probably want to keep fairly private. And so the proximity, not just of the service so you can respond to it quickly, but also that you get the end-to-end control and visibility from a security perspective, we're seeing is super important to people. And then finally, again, if you go to URLLC and time-sensitive networking, again, much closer geared towards industrial automation scenarios. The combination of those services along with edge compute gives the ability to do remote PLCs. No longer are you dragging wires across the factory floor. It allows you to do rapid reconfiguration. It allows you to onboard automated guided vehicles. So what we're seeing is people taking advantage of those capabilities. And it's really that, those three things combined with what I'll say is just your ability to provide compute and potentially a private network where there isn't maybe traditional telephone service is the last or the fourth case with private networks. We're seeing a lot of adoption in places like oil rigs and mining locations where traditional cell phone service just doesn't make sense to get there. But once you can put compute there along with the private network, you basically create a miniature smart city, and that's very attractive both in the private sector and in the government sector, especially around sort of defense or civil installations. So from that perspective, we're seeing a ton of interest and actual deployments based around those capabilities.
Yeah, I think the oil rig's a really strong use case, actually. Mini smart city, smart oil rig, really good. Peter, anything else to add on there with regards to the case for Edge and for Private MEC?
So I think Sean hits the points that we often hear. And the Edge stories are pretty clear by now. I think we hear latency, right? We understand the latency argument, right? Data sovereignty, right? Data privacy, the enterprise wanting to control that, and then transport issues, right? Whether that's the cost of transport, getting something from the edge back into the core, or just transport availability. But what I think is interesting, and is probably more important than any of those capabilities, is just the demand side of things. I mean, the industry has taken a lot of time in talking about technologies and saying this is what it can do, and sort of talking to not necessarily anyone who actually wants to hear that story, and sort of trying to sell
solutions looking for problems. I think one of the things that we need to recognize with Edge is that this isn't just sort of we can do these things. These are issues that the enterprises are saying they actually want, right? I talked a bit about how operators and what they're looking for in terms of enterprise success. We talk to enterprises as well. And when you ask the enterprise sort of what technologies do you think are critical, Edge is up there, right? So it's not just there are things, there are capabilities that Edge can bring. It's the fact that there are enterprises out there that say they want those capabilities. And I think that's probably the most important part.
Sure. Thank you, Peter. Let's crack on because we've got a lot of talking points. Want to get to as many of your questions as well today. Shiraj, I'll come to you next. So we've just been discussing the big picture around the Edge, but the launch today is about MEC for private networks. So what does Private MEC enable beyond public cloud?
Well, if you look at what public cloud brings today, public cloud is a fantastic platform for classic enterprise and IT workloads, and it will continue to be so. What Private MEC does now with the connection to public cloud is a new capability of being able to procure, deploy, and manage mission-critical networking, as well as edge AI application services that monetize or bring the business value to those networks. That's a capability that doesn't exist with public clouds today. And so by integrating these two domains and bringing the power of the public cloud, which really, really drives simplicity of provisioning resources, simplicity of managing all of your capabilities, and providing that consistent developer experience that people are now so familiar with and comfortable with in the public cloud around AI and ML, but making that portable and transportable and available at the edge is the new capability.
Super. Thank you very much indeed. Sean, I want to come back to you with this next conversation point. We've seen the opportunities there. We've established that. So what is Microsoft's pitch for the space? What's the unique that Microsoft is bringing to the table here, would you say?
Well, first of all, I think from a technology perspective, we brought in the first-party DNA that understands what creating a truly carrier-grade cloud means. So, and the way that translates into benefit for our partners is our first-party solutions obviously drive a unique knowledge of what it takes to be successful in private networking and more generalized networking overall. That gets built back into the platform, which is then re-exposed not just to our first-party applications, but our third-party applications as well. Second of all, Microsoft is fundamentally a partner-focused business. Partners trust us with their IP. They trust us to build out an ecosystem, and that's the way Microsoft has traditionally gathered a lot of success. So we're a very partner-friendly organization. And as a result, we've got a deep set of partners that deliver not just the software that folks need, but the services they need to be successful here. We're talking about applications that touch the core of people's businesses. So as a result, you need specialists. You need the specialized SI resources. You need the process specialists that can trust to work together to build out those solutions. As a result, that vast ecosystem of what we bring to the table is incredibly beneficial. And we have a partner-oriented model, which means we don't monetize people's data. We don't, we protect their intellectual property, and we're really basically it's their product, their solution, powered by our technology. As a result, I think those are what's super important to scale this ecosystem, and Microsoft brings those. So we bring a carrier-grade first-party platform coupled with a fantastic array of business solutions and a partner-centric approach that I think is unique and brings a ton of value in this space.
Thank you very much, Sean. And then, Sean, because you are clearly the focal point for this panel.
Feels like it.
Yeah, it does. Here's another one. Sean, I'll come to you very quickly with this one. What is Microsoft's strategy then for supporting the ecosystem? We're talking about the importance of partnerships there. What's your ecosystem play?
Yeah. So as we talked earlier, we have an organization specifically dedicated to the ecosystem play. So while we use our first-party software to increase the value and really understand what carrier grade cloud means, we then in turn expose that, right? We have a formalized policy that says everything that we build in the platform is exposed to all users. So from that perspective, it's making sure the full range of the capabilities are available. Similarly, we have a partner organization uniquely devoted towards helping Azure partners get onboarded, operate, and then take to market solutions that are Azure based. And those resources sit independent of, say, for example, our first party telco resources, such that people can entrust their intellectual property and the safety of their business with us to go to market together. So as a result, we bring almost a combination of a technology strategy, which is incredibly partner friendly, along with an operating or business model that protects our partners' interest.
Sure. Thank you very much. Ashwin, before we go to our viewer questions today, just a quick one for you, Ashwin. At the end of the presentation, come build with us was the call to action there. So what's next then for operators and integrators? How do you see, what do you see that involving for them?
Yeah, when we're embarking and doing our research, we talked with a lot of enterprise CIOs, and the CIOs are really focused on outcomes. They are talking about improvements in their repair times or fraud detection or all of these automation that were talked about throughout the presentation. Connectivity, edge compute, edge applications are making those outcomes happen. But, the critical focus is on the outcomes. Essentially, this is a call to action to the operators and SIs to come and collaborate with us, to develop these vertically integrated solutions and go to market. Like we can be combining the Azure Private MEC with Spyglass Vision by Mariner to detect and address the production line issues. And we want to take the operators and the SIs to actually take this solution to the manufacturing sector. There are many such edge application developers that are currently developing on Azure. Mm-hmm. Next, remember, I think we have been repeating this fact all the time that Azure is a platform first, and we care a lot about the ecosystem and the myriad possibilities that the ecosystem can bring to the table. We are developing a lot of eval kits also, so that the SIs and the operators can evaluate different, bring SIM technologies, RAN technologies to combine with, and evaluate the different deployment scenarios. Not one scenario is suitable for everything. The oil rig scenario is different than a manufacturing scenario or a gaming scenario or a stadium scenario. And then you also want to integrate into your OSS and BSS systems. The motion here is that Private MEC this is all about scale. These are the things which are possible. Operators do today deploy them, but one at a time, which takes a lot of cost. We want to bring connectivity and compute to the 14 million enterprise locations that want this, right? And okay. We need to simplify, automate, and enable the managed services to address the scale opportunity. We need to really create ready-made solutions and not custom. And we can't do it alone, and we need you. So the call is really come and let's build together and change the world.
Thank you very much indeed, Ashwin. Let's flip over to some questions now from our audience. Thank you very much for your questions. Sean, I'll come to you first of all with this one. Does Azure provide support for enhanced networking options like SRIOV, DPDK, and hardware accelerators required in 5G user plane and radio access networks? Sean, what do you say?
So the answer is, if you've seen from the demo, obviously we've got things like ASOCs running on the Azure Stack Edge solution today, and that works very well for the private networking scenarios. However, there's a broader question in that, which is this the same form factor you use to solve for vRAN and distributed user plane, possibly in the macro network? And the answer to that is more in the slide that Yusuf shared around our hybrid cloud strategy. So I would expect to have a different form factor and a release where we discuss how we're going to address that as part of our hybrid cloud strategy coming shortly. We recognize the unique requirements in the vRAN space, especially for the macro network. We recognize that there's going to require some additional off-board computing capabilities, and that's in that hybrid cloud strategy slide that we shared.
This is one of the examples, actually, how Microsoft, via acquisition of these technologies from Affirmed and Metaswitch, have enabled the cloud to become telco grade in order to serve all of these network functions. And SRIOV, and Affirmed was one of the pioneers of that. and that's how it has come to fruition. So
thank you very much. Indeed. Let's see if we can head over to another question or two. Shriraj, I'll put this one to you. The question is, what plans does Microsoft have to offer their own containerized network functions to their enterprise clients? If not directly, will you create a marketplace on Azure where enterprise clients can self-assemble telco services? Thank you for your question. Shriraj, do you have an answer?
Yeah, that's an easy one. We have our network functions available in the marketplace today, as I'd mentioned during my talk. And not just from us, we have a number of other partners like VMware's VeloCloud SD-WAN solution and a number of other network functions that are available in the Azure marketplace, ready to deploy on an Azure Stack Edge system today. And so I think that was the easy part of the question. The more important nuance over here is that while these capabilities are available on the marketplace for any customer, we have seen that while we drive down, we push for simplification in this domain. Enterprises by themselves, as Ashwin pointed out, are very focused on outcomes. There's a lot of other work required to actually make this thing fully integrated into an enterprise network and into an enterprise premise scenario. And so for that, we continue to see that enterprises will want to partner with operators and specialist system integrators to bring these solutions together.
Thank you very much. I'm aware we are very, very nearly over time. So I'm just going to fire one more quick question to you, Sean, and hopefully it's a quick answer. How will the hyperscaler like Microsoft manage the growing demand for sovereign clouds, Sean?
Well, we may have seen a release we did earlier last week where we have specifically launched a sovereign cloud in France. And we'll continue to evaluate the opportunities there case by case. We recognize that this is an area of growing interest. We recognize and we work closely with the various regulatory and policymakers around the globe to address and understand those concerns. And as I think you'll see that we've got a planned expansion that we do as and when needed. So we will continue to move forward based on demand.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid, gentlemen, that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you to all of our guests for joining us, and indeed to you for watching. If you'd like to find out more about what we've been discussing here today, then at the top right hand of the screen, you will see a resources tab, and in there you'll find links to documentation and materials on Azure Private MEC, and a link to the Azure announcement blog. Finally, if you missed any of today's event, maybe you joined in late, or you'd like to watch again, then there's a link to an on-demand version of the show that will be shared with you very shortly indeed. But for now, on behalf of everybody involved in today's event, thank you for watching and goodbye.